With that, let's move on and talk about ICICI Prudential AMC resuming subscription in small cap funds from January 23rd. They've also resumed subscription in select international funds. To talk more about these, we have with us Chintan Haria, Principal Investment Strategy at ICICI Prudential AMC, joining us now. Chintan, hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining in. And this is all that many in the mutual industry can talk about from an investor perspective. The first one is the subscription that has opened up in small cap funds. What makes you do that after a break of almost 2 years? Is it fair to say that at an AMC level, you are seeing value in small caps now? Chintan, you're on mute, I believe.
Yeah, sorry. Good afternoon, Sonal. If we look at from a market perspective itself, last 2 years, 1.5 years or so, India has been a stark underperformer. And along with that, if we look at it, currency has also depreciated. If you were in South Korea, if you were in Japan, if you were in Taiwan, the story would have been different if you were in Brazil. So all the other markets have done pretty well. So India becomes a contrarian buy in that sense. So we are constructive on Indian equities. And within that, if you look at the last 3 to 4 months specifically, there has been a wide market correction which has happened. So while markets are not as cheap as they would be in 2018, 2013 or 2009, we do believe that it's a good time for those who probably want to start their journey to start participating based on their asset allocation requirements.
Hi Chintan, good afternoon. Vinnii on this side as well. So you said you're constructive on Indian equities. Any specific themes that you think are undervalued or maybe oversold into that you're watching out for?
Yeah, Vinnii, it's quite interesting if we look at the Indian markets right now. 2018 and today, if we look at it, the top 10 stocks in Nifty concentration is only about 52 to 53%. The wider market is participated a lot more. So there's a lot of value which we are seeing in large caps, especially the mega caps, which don't seem to have participated in the last 1 year or so. Apart from that, if you look at from a sectoral standpoint, and the previous discussion which was happening with Rishi is quite interesting, because our thematic advantage fund of fund does exactly that, wherein we are today placing ourselves on energy, financials, tech, which have underperformed meaningfully. So if you look at the entire oil and gas basket with crude oil being low, that has corrected significantly. If you look at tech also. So those segments or sectors look interesting. Financials, of course, have also not participated in a big way, courtesy the foreign selling, which is continuously happening, while the numbers are coming reasonably okay. So if you look at the entire market perspective right now with GST cuts, with liquidity abundant, and the earnings cycle, which was probably weak in 25, turning around in 26, it definitely looks like Indian markets, which have been a stark underperformer, would see some interest from foreigners as well as we go ahead.
Okay, so you briefly touched on the energy bit, your strategic energy fund, metals basket, that is also open for subscription. Is it because of the same reason that you spoke about earlier? You are seeing some earnings recovery here. Asking you because there's still so much conversation about whether one should go and invest in these themes or not. So wanted to understand the reason for your reopening these funds as well.
So if you look at from a reopening standpoint, there are 3 funds which have reopened: the US Blue Chip, the NASDAQ, and the Strategic Metal and Energy Fund of ICICI Prudential. Each fund is unique in its own right. The first one which you spoke of, ICICI Prudential Strategic Metal and Energy. About 4 years back, when we were thinking of constructing this fund, our thought was that if India is importing so much gold and oil is something which we are reliant on, India does not have gold mining companies and oil exploration companies. Why not give investors access to these companies? And that's how this fund was specifically constructed, with some element of movement between oil exploration and gold mining stocks. These are all international stocks and the largest ones in their own space. And the fund has done well in the past, but more importantly, right now, since the limits may have opened a little, we felt that investors who have been probably having zero exposure or don't have exposure can participate to the extent of 2 lakh rupees per PAN to take advantage of this sharp rally that we've seen in gold, and also, of course, the oil exploration and oil mining with whatever is happening geopolitically, they can participate in. So this should be considered as part of their equity allocation or in lieu of gold, because both these will give you opportunities to participate in oil exploration and gold mining.
Chintan, just a bit more in terms of the international funds. Are there limits available now for funds? Also, given that, dollar is strengthening, is it a good time to look at international funds?
So dollar has actually depreciated. If you look at it from the last couple of weeks perspective, it's around 97, the DXY. And it is no surprise with the kind of balance sheet that US is carrying that dollar at some point of time in the next couple of years, if not so, should devalue significantly. That is also reflective of how gold and silver are participating right now in terms of the upside, because people want to de-dollarize themselves, and gold and silver are presenting that opportunity to investors. Whether silver has gone ahead of its times, that only times will tell, but it's time to be a little cautious there. And hence, if we look at it from, let's say, the ICICI Prudential US Blue Chip perspective, the fund is basically investing across the market cap curve in US while keeping a wide moat in mind. So the stocks which are selected are not necessarily the stocks which are the largest in US, but those stocks which have a very strong moat around them and their valuations are reasonable. So if you look at the fund, for example, it has about 20-25% in tech, there's consumer, there's healthcare, diversified portfolio. It is not mimicking the typical US indices which you would find, and that's where those investors who want a piece of the international investing can look at it. No doubt today India seems to be better than the global markets, but then investors are allocating some amount internationally, and that's where the ICICI Prudential US Blue Chip, ICICI Prudential Strategic Metal and Energy can be a good combination for those who are looking at a diversified basket abroad, because dollar, of course, losing value, inflation obviously rearing its head up because there's significant amount of commodity-based inflation also, which is likely to come in the world. All put together, you need to be in equities, for example, and that's where these funds will be handy.
All right. Take that point. Short but very good conversation, Chintan. Thank you so much for joining us as always and giving us your perspective on different aspects of asset classes and categories as well. So that's the word coming in from ICICI Pru Small Mutual AMC. They've spoken about what's happening with the small cap fund reopening there and the other categories as well. With that, we'll take your leave on this edition of MF Corner, but stay tuned for Closing Bell to take you through the last hour of trade.